Your overhead storage channel. Let's go listening.
Coming home should have felt like relief. After 4 months working a consulting gig in South America, Bogota, Sao Paulo, Santiago, I was burnt out on hotel rooms, spotty Wi-Fi, and the constant mental sprint of back-to-back operations. I'd missed the ordinary things. The familiar creak of our hallway floor, the humming radiator that never worked quite right, the uneven kitchen tiles I kept promising to fix. I missed my kids' chaotic energy, missed my wife's morning coffee routine, even the way she left the cabinet doors open like she was allergic to closing them. I missed being home, but when I stepped through the front door of our brownstone in Brooklyn, jet-lagged and craving nothing more than stillness, I knew something was off. Not just a little off. Wrong. The first thing that hit me wasn't even visual. It was instinct. You know when you walk into a room and feel like someone else was just there? Like the air's been stirred by unfamiliar energy? That was the feeling. It clung to the walls. Then came the visuals. On the entry bench was a neatly folded wool scarf I'd never seen before. And hanging next to my usual weathered navy coat was something that didn't belong. A designer camel overcoat. Immaculate. Expensive. Prada. The kind of item you wear if you're trying to impress someone or avoid being ignored. Beneath it, a pair of size 12 men's dress shoes lined up too perfectly. Italian leather. Not mine. Not even close. I wear 10s, and I haven't owned anything that polished since our wedding. I stood there, frozen, listening. The house was quiet, but not the good kind. It felt staged. The kind of silence you get when someone's trying not to make noise. I set my duffel down gently and stepped further inside, shoes echoing softly on the hardwood. That's when I saw the wine. 2 glasses on the living room table. One still half full. Red. Deep red. Malbec, maybe. A lit candle flickered beside them. A throw blanket, one we normally kept folded on the back of the couch, was balled up like someone had just stood up quickly. And then the final nail. A scent I didn't recognize. Cologne. Subtle but sharp. Something musky, spicy, probably French. Definitely not mine. I haven't worn cologne in years. Emily always said she liked me natural. I don't remember walking to the staircase. My body just moved. Hello, I called up, voice quiet but cutting. A pause. Then footsteps. Soft, quick. She appeared at the top of the stairs like she hadn't heard me enter. Hair wet. Wearing a hoodie, one I didn't recognize. Her expression faltered for just a beat. Her eyes widened, then relaxed. She smiled. Too wide. You're back early, she said, coming down the stairs like nothing was wrong. Didn't want to sit around the airport waiting for the morning flight. Caught a red eye, I replied. My voice was flat, my eyes on the coat rack. She followed my gaze. Oh, she said, that's Taylor's. Remember him? My old professor? He was in the city. Stopped by to say hi. Just catching up. I stared at her. Taylor? Yeah. From my grad program at NYU. We reconnected a while back. He's been consulting on some education initiatives. You'd like him, he's super smart. You probably crossed paths with his writing, actually. She was good. I'll give her that. Calm. Clear. Name drop just enough to make it seem casual. Sprinkle in my field of expertise to imply overlap. She even chuckled lightly, as if none of this warranted concern. He left the wine half full? She blinked. We were talking. I was about to pour another glass when I heard you. I didn't see his car. He took a rideshare. Traffic's been insane today. Every answer was too smooth, too airtight, like she'd practiced them, like she'd gone over this exact scene in her head, anticipating my questions and rehearsing the rhythm of her lies. I wanted to believe her. I really did, but I couldn't unsee the details. The wine glasses weren't our usual stemless ones. These were the crystal goblets we kept boxed up in the back of the cabinet. Wedding gifts. We'd used them maybe twice. And that hoodie? It wasn't hers. It was at least a large, maybe XL. Not her size. I said nothing, just nodded. Let the silence stretch. She stepped forward and touched my arm. You look tired. Come sit. I'll make some tea. I'm fine, I said. That night I didn't sleep. She curled up beside me like normal, rested her hand on my chest like she always did. And yet, everything about it felt counterfeit. My mind played a reel of what I'd walked into. Every frame felt wrong. My gut was screaming, but my brain was still holding onto threads, thin, fraying threads of benefit of the doubt. But the next morning, the phone call changed everything. I was in the kitchen pouring coffee when my phone rang. Unknown number, local area code. I picked up, expecting a client call or maybe my brother. "Mr. Allen?" a crisp voice asked. "Yes. My name is Dana Eisen. I'm an attorney representing your wife, Emily Allen. I was asked to contact you regarding the terms of a proposed separation." I froze. "Excuse me?" She would like to pursue a separation with the hope of reaching an amicable agreement. She's requested we initiate the process in good faith, without escalation. My mouth went dry. Without escalation. They already had a lawyer. They'd already drafted a plan. This wasn't some emotional fallout from a miscommunication. This wasn't about a fight or some confused feelings. This had been coordinated, timed, initiated while I was still overseas, before I'd even set foot back into our home. I hung up without saying much. Just a vague, "I'll get back to you." I don't even remember the rest of that morning. Just the sting of realization spreading across my chest like frostbite. She hadn't told me herself. She'd passed the message through a lawyer like a memo, because to her it was already done. I walked upstairs, sat on the edge of the bed. She was in the bathroom, humming softly as she applied mascara. I watched her through the reflection in the mirror. That same smooth rhythm. Calm. Casual. "Did you think I wouldn't find out?" I asked quietly. She paused. Her hand trembled just slightly before she steadied it. "Find out what?" she said. And that's when I knew. This wasn't confusion. This wasn't guilt. This was control. I used to think betrayal would come like a car crash. Loud, chaotic, undeniable. Something you couldn't miss even if you tried. But that's not how it happens. Not really. What actually happens is erosion. Silent, slow. Bit by bit, the life you thought was rock solid just shifts. And before you know it, there's a fault line running straight through everything you built. In the days that followed that phone call, I started reassembling the past 6 months like broken glass. And the more I pieced together, the clearer it became. The signs were all there. I just hadn't wanted to see them. It started with the small changes. Emily used to be casual with her looks. Hoodies, messy buns. Her natural no-makeup face that I always found more beautiful than any polished version. But then one morning, maybe 5 months ago, she came downstairs dressed for work like she was headed to a magazine shoot. New silk blouse, fitted slacks, heels, a fresh haircut, choppy and modern. Makeup done to perfection, just enough to make you notice. I complimented her, of course. She smiled, said she just felt like switching it up, said she needed a little reset. I believed her, but the changes kept coming. New perfume, new gym membership, for the yoga classes, she said. Then suddenly, she was at the gym 5 times a week, sometimes twice a day. The gym bag never left the back seat of her car. I joked that she was going to get abs before I even managed to lose the holiday weight. She laughed, but there was something in her eyes, something distant. Then came the new wardrobe, dresses I'd never seen before, jewelry that didn't match her usual style, lingerie tags still attached to items I definitely hadn't seen her wear around me. At one point, I asked if she'd been shopping with someone. She said her coworkers had dragged her into some boutique during a lunch break. I let it go. She started working weekends. That was the next step. At first, it made sense. Her office had landed a new education client, a nonprofit based in Philadelphia. She told me she was handling curriculum design for a summer program. I was proud of her. She'd always been passionate about that kind of thing. But then the weekend trips started to multiply. "I'm staying over Friday night," she said one afternoon, slipping her overnight bag into the back of the car. "There's an early site visit Saturday morning, and traffic is a nightmare." I didn't argue. I kissed her goodbye. I even texted her that night to tell her I missed her. She sent back a selfie, hotel background, half-eaten salad, laptop open beside her. She captioned it, "Real glamorous, huh?" What I didn't notice then, but see clearly now, is what wasn't in the photo. No team. No coworker chatter in the background. No signs of a group effort. Just her alone. Or, well, not alone. Just not with the people she said she was with. She stopped sharing things. That was subtle, but it stung the most. We used to talk about everything, what we had for lunch, weird things we saw on the subway, the dumb articles we read while pretending to work. But lately, our conversations were transactional. Did you pick up the dry cleaning? Don't forget Lucas has practice at 6. I'll be home late. Order something for the kids. Our text threads, once full of dumb jokes and little I love you check-ins, had turned into digital post-it notes. Even the house had changed. I didn't notice it all at once, but slowly, our home had shifted under my nose. The family gallery wall, the one near the stairs, started thinning out. A few frames came down for updating, she said, but they were never replaced. Instead, abstract art started appearing. Moody, modern canvases with cryptic brushstrokes. Cold colors. Nothing personal. Nothing with us. Even the scent of the house changed. Our home used to smell like morning toast, cinnamon candles, that weird herbal shampoo Emily always used. Now it smelled like diffusers, like curated air, like a hotel lobby trying to convince you it had a personality. And the kids. God, even the kids were different. Lucas used to bounce off the walls when I called from abroad. "When are you coming home, Dad? Look what I drew." His sister, Mia, would demand to show me her newest gymnastics moves over video. Emily would laugh in the background, holding the camera steady. But lately, the calls felt strained. Lucas would mumble, "Hi," then disappear back to his room. Mia would wave briefly and hand the phone back. I figured it was just the time zone, the routine. Kids get used to absence faster than we do. At least, that's what I told myself. Now I wonder what they were being told. I remembered something else. Just a week before I flew back, Emily sent me a voice note. She sounded distracted. Wind in the background, footsteps echoing. She said she was walking through some neighborhood in Philly, scouting a potential school partnership. "I think the kids would love it here," she said, almost too casually. "Good weather, more green space, less city chaos." I remember laughing. "You trying to relocate us?" She paused for a beat too long before she said, "Just a thought." At the time, I chalked it up to travel fatigue. Maybe she'd caught the relocation bug. But now I see it clearly. That wasn't a passing comment. That was a test balloon. A breadcrumb. The plan had already begun *N. I started opening drawers, pulling files, searching for anything that felt solid because my grip on reality was slipping. And that's when I noticed more things out of place. Her laptop was always with her now. Password changed. Her tablet? Same. Even her emails were suspiciously clean, cleared out, unsubscribed from things she used to obsess over. I checked our shared calendar. Appointments deleted. Events moved without notice. The photos on her phone had changed, too. I saw them in passing one day when she left it on the charger. No more beach pics with the kids. No selfies of the three of us piled onto the couch. Instead, there were landscapes, hotel lobbies, food *TS with no people in them. The kind you take when you're with someone you're not supposed to be with. The most damning thing came from the mail. A glossy envelope, real estate branding on the front. Inside was a brochure for a bilingual international school in Lisbon, tucked into a packet alongside travel visa information and a printed housing rental inquiry. She hadn't even bothered to hide it. And suddenly, the educational opportunity she mentioned in passing weeks ago wasn't hypothetical. It was real, planned, tracked. Our future, my children's future, was being drafted behind my back. I sat down at the dining table, surrounded by scattered evidence. Bank statements, school pamphlets, her new gym receipts. It looked less like a life and more like a storyboard. One that didn't include me. And the most haunting part? She had made it look effortless. You know how they say people don't change overnight? That's a lie. They do. They change quietly, methodically, behind locked devices and polite smiles. They rewrite the script while you're busy working overseas to keep food on the table. By the time you notice, you're not in the scene anymore. You're in the audience, watching a life that used to be yours play out with someone else in your place. There's a strange calm that comes over you when suspicion finally turns into certainty. Not relief, God, no, but a kind of cold steadiness. Like your body gives up on denial and just goes numb so your brain can get to work. That's where I was. I knew I couldn't keep living in the maybe. I needed proof. Not for a courtroom, not for revenge, just for clarity. Something to shut up the tiny voice in my head that still whispered, what if she's telling the truth? So I hired someone. His name was Ray. Ex-military, ex-cop, now running a low-profile investigative firm out of a storefront between a bail bonds office and a locksmith in Queens. He looked like a guy who drank his coffee black and didn't blink much. You need surveillance or digital? He asked during our first meeting. Both, I said. She's smart. Careful. This isn't a fling, it's a plan. He didn't flinch. Then we'll play it like chess, not poker. Within 5 days, Ray had enough footage to make me physically ill. The man, Taylor, was no mystery anymore. The same old professor friend she'd name-dropped on instinct. He wasn't just someone she'd reconnected with. He was the someone. The man in the coat. The man in the shoes. The man whose presence I'd felt before I even knew his name. Ray showed me footage of him arriving at our house multiple times. Always during school hours, always when I was gone. He had a key. In one clip, Taylor let himself in through the back door, casually carrying a tote bag. 20 minutes later, Emily appeared at the kitchen window in one of his oversized sweatshirts. They shared a bottle of wine on the patio like it was their Saturday tradition. Comfortable. Practiced. Another video showed him leaving the next morning in her bathrobe, holding one of her favorite ceramic mugs, the one with the chipped rim and the fading constellation design. The int asterisk Macy of that image hit me harder than I expected. He wasn't just visiting. He was living here in pieces. There were documents, too. Ray had a way of digging. Reservation records from a secluded lodge in Montauk. 2 nights. 1 room. Under both their names. Cross-referenced with school absences for the kids. She told me it was a mother-daughter wellness retreat. That lie felt especially cruel. Emails between them were unearthed through metadata trails Ray's tech guy pulled from cloud syncs. Code names, jokes, secret calendar links titled board meeting or grant interview. They were bold, brazen, so sure I'd never look. One thread hit me in the chest like a hammer. Emily, we should start finalizing Portugal. I don't want to pull the kids out last minute. Too hard on them. Taylor, agreed. Let's make it look like an academic relocation. No red flags. Make it look like? That's when I knew it wasn't just about infidelity anymore. It was about custody, relocation, future narratives. The kind where I didn't even exist. Ray's last discovery was the hardest to digest. A scanned loan application joint, signed, between Emily and Taylor for a property in Cascais, Portugal. A modern villa on a hillside. Open concept, floor-to-ceiling windows. 3 bedrooms. 1 master. 1 guest. Not 4. Not 5. Not enough for our children to have their own space. They weren't building a new family. They were constructing a stage. And I was the ghost they intended to bury quietly. Back home, I sat on the edge of our bed, the loan application in my lap. Her signature stared back at me, fluid and confident. I'd seen that same signature on birthday cards, lease agreements, and school forms. Now it felt foreign. I heard her voice in my head from a month ago, soft and disarming. I think the kids would love Europe. It would broaden their minds. What she meant was, I've already decided. I just haven't told you yet. Even the children, God, even they were pieces in her plan. I started to think about their shifting moods over our video calls. The nervous glances. The one-word answers. The rehearsed smiles. Had they already been told a version of this? Had she fed them lines like, Daddy's busy? Or, Portugal is going to be an adventure? I didn't know what hurt more. the betrayal of love, or the manipulation of innocence. I closed the folder and walked downstairs. She was in the kitchen, chopping carrots for a soup she wasn't really making. The kids were upstairs, music thumping faintly from Mia's room. I stared at her back, her posture casual and loose. She hummed something off-key. She looked like a woman living in peace. And I hated that. "Emily," I said flatly. She turned, smile fading a fraction. "Yeah, I know about Taylor." Her eyes flinched just slightly, but she recovered fast. "What do you mean?" "I mean, I know about the lodge, the emails, the house in Portugal, the joint loan application." She froze completely now, knife still in her hand. "That's not what you think." I laughed, not because it was funny, because it was so absurdly predictable. "It's exactly what I think," I said. "You've been planning a future without me, behind my back, with another man, while I was overseas trying to build something for this family." She set the knife down gently, like she was afraid sudden movements would make me snap. "I didn't mean for it to happen this way." "You didn't mean for what? The affair? The relocation? Or the part where you quietly phased me out of my children's lives while smiling to my face?" She looked down. "I didn't plan it like that at first. It just evolved." "Evolved?" I repeated. "Like a project plan?" She didn't answer. I walked out of the kitchen before I said something I couldn't take back. I was beyond fury, beyond heartbreak. This wasn't about rage anymore. It was about protecting what mattered. That night, I called my lawyer. I remembered something Emily had conveniently forgotten. A clause in her grandfather's trust. One she had once explained to me in passing when we were still a team. It granted emergency rights to the trust executor, in this case me, if there was proven risk to the children's well-being, including unauthorized international relocation. "Trigger it," I told him. "You're sure?" he asked. "Absolutely. Freeze the assets. Now." And just like that, the engine she'd been quietly fueling for over a year came to a grinding halt. The next morning, I received a panicked voicemail. It wasn't from Emily. It was from her lawyer. She requested an urgent meeting to reassess the tone and trajectory of the separation. Tone. Trajectory. I almost laughed again. Now they wanted to talk? Now that the money was blocked? Now that their chess game had a rook missing? I wasn't playing chess anymore. I was protecting my children. And now, finally, I had leverage. I used to think control was about force, about shouting the loudest, drawing the hardest line, refusing to back down. But real control is quiet. Real control is leverage. And after months of being in the dark, I finally had it. The trust clause Emily forgot or underestimated, became my lifeline. Her grandfather had written it decades ago to protect family assets from reckless misuse, especially if children were involved. The language was clear. If conditions of material instability arose around the well-being of any minor heir, a secondary guardian could activate a freeze pending legal review. That secondary guardian was me. Within 24 hours of filing, the trust was locked, temporarily frozen under emergency review. All disbursements halted. No access to liquid assets. No movement of shares. Nothing. The Portugal property deal? Dead in the water. Taylor's investment accounts, which Emily had partially funded, flagged and under hold due to possible fiduciary interference. It wasn't a final blow, not yet, but it was a gut punch. And they felt it immediately. Her lawyer called first. "We're hoping to avoid unnecessary escalation. Our client is surprised by the asset suspension and is requesting a constructive dialogue." I let my lawyer respond. "Our client is protecting his children. Dialogue can happen when full transparency is restored." Translation: we're not playing nice anymore. That same afternoon, I noticed a shift in Emily's behavior. Subtle but telling. She was suddenly more attentive with the kids, asking about school, making homemade lunches again. She even offered to cook dinner. Chicken parm, my favorite, which she hadn't made in over a year. I didn't touch it. She also started asking questions. Carefully worded ones. "How's work? she asked while pretending to scroll her phone. Busy, I replied. Are you feeling overwhelmed? No. She looked up, studying me like I was a puzzle she used to solve easily. I gave her nothing, because I knew what she was doing. She wasn't reconnecting, she was recalibrating, trying to gauge how much I knew, how far I'd go, how to shift gears without making it obvious. But I wasn't the same man who stepped into our house weeks ago. I wasn't looking for answers anymore. I was executing a plan. Step 2. Digital exposure. I reached out to a cybersecurity consultant named Eric, recommended by a colleague who'd gone through something similar during his divorce. Eric was young, sharp, and frighteningly efficient. Within 72 hours, he had mirrored backups of Taylor's cloud storage and synced email archives. Public-facing accounts, at least. No hacks. No illegal breaks. Just smart metadata navigation through shared project files and poorly protected folders. Emily had shared a lot more than I expected. The documents were damning. Dozens of PDFs showing investment transfers between Emily and Taylor, some routed through offshore holding accounts in the Cayman Islands. They weren't hiding money from me. They were hiding it from the IRS too. There were spreadsheets outlining asset realignment post-divorce, breaking down her projected gains after the trust matured. She had estimated custody likelihood, calculating potential alimony and support margins based on my travel schedule. She was trying to build a future where I paid for her new life, while losing access to my kids. The worst part? There were communications about the children, cold, transactional notes buried in otherwise professional emails. Once custody is settled, we'll need a narrative that eases the transition. Can we brand it as a cultural growth opportunity? If Mark contests travel, we have the relocation angle. His job still shows high travel frequency. They weren't just moving forward. They were manufacturing a story, a digestible lie. I forwarded every document to my lawyer. He called me that night. This is good, he said. Very good. With this kind of paper trail, we're not just dealing with infidelity, we're looking at premeditated custodial fraud and financial misrepresentation. Will it hold in court? Absolutely. We moved quickly. The next day, we filed a motion for provisional primary custody, citing intentional deception and plans to relocate the children internationally without proper consent. We included the trust clause activation, digital evidence of relocation schemes, and financial irregularities suggesting deliberate concealment of marital assets. That night, Emily finally cracked. She confronted me in the kitchen, her eyes red, breath uneven. The mask had slipped. Why are you doing this? She asked, voice low but sharp. Why freeze the trust? I turned to her, calm. To protect our children. There's nothing to protect them from, she snapped. They're safe. Not when you're planning to move them out of the country with someone they barely know. Her mouth opened, then closed. She looked away. You were going to take them without telling me, I continued. And not just take them, reframe it, rebrand it, like you were doing them a favor. It wasn't like that. Stop. She looked back at me, angry, cornered. You brought this on yourself, I said. All of it. She stood there for a long moment silent before leaving the room. Later that night, she emailed me instead of speaking face to face. The subject line read, Let's not make this worse. Her message was vague. A call for civility. She didn't deny anything. Just asked to recenter the process for the children's sake. It would have made me laugh if it hadn't made me sick. Civility now that the money was cut off. Civility now that I had receipts. Taylor, to his credit or cowardice, had gone dark. No visits. No more emails. I assumed his lawyer told him to lay low, maybe advised him to prepare for scrutiny. Because that's what was coming. My lawyer coordinated with the court to request a formal review of Taylor's contact with the children, citing a video Ray had captured of him grabbing Lucas by the arm and shouting during a drop-off. That footage, paired with recent behavioral notes from Lucas's school counselor, painted a picture of emotional instability. Not mine, not Emily's, but his. I wasn't just going to win custody. I was going to make it impossible for them to rewrite history. By the end of the week, we had everything lined up. Digital evidence, financial documentation, behavioral reports, and testimony from Ray's observations. We scheduled a joint legal session. Emily, Taylor, their respective attorneys, and me. My lawyer advised, "Don't show emotion, show evidence." "Understood," I said, because at this point, emotion didn't matter. What mattered was what could be proven. And the truth? We had it in black and white. We sat across from each other in a room that smelled like dry ink and polished wood. The conference table was too long for the number of people at it. At one end sat Emily and her lawyer, Dana. Next to them, Taylor, sharp in a charcoal suit, hair slicked back like he hadn't just watched his future plans collapse. His attorney, a graying man in tortoiseshell glasses, flipped through a thick folder with forced calm. My lawyer, Sarah, sat to my right, stoic, composed, a former federal prosecutor who never raised her voice but never needed to. "Thank you all for being here," Dana began. "Our goal today is to finalize the terms of separation and begin constructive custody dialogue." Sarah gave me a brief nod. "Showtime." "Before we discuss any terms," Sarah said, opening her briefcase, "my client would like to present some materials." Emily shifted slightly in her seat. Taylor didn't flinch. Sarah slid a printed folder across the table, stopping right in front of Dana and Emily. "This contains records of bank transfers between your client and Mr. Taylor over the past 14 months, some routed through offshore accounts." Dana flipped open the folder. Her expression didn't change, but her grip tightened on the edge of the paper. Taylor leaned forward to look, still silent. "These documents," Sarah continued, "include wire instructions, property loan applications in Portugal, and joint investments in digital assets." Dana cleared her throat. "This doesn't relate directly to the children's care." "It does," Sarah said coolly, "when it's tied to an undeclared plan to relocate them internationally without consent." She slid another packet forward. "Email transcripts, sourced through legal metadata recovery, not hacking. They clearly outline a timeline, beginning almost 12 months ago, of efforts to move the children to Portugal under the pretense of academic opportunity. The emails include language about creating a digestible story and minimizing backlash." Emily spoke up for the first time. "We were only discussing possibilities." Sarah didn't look at her. "Possibilities don't come with visa research and property contracts." Taylor finally broke his silence. "I think we should slow this down." "We're not done," Sarah said. "Next exhibit." This one was a still image, printed large, mounted on thick board. A freeze frame from Ray's surveillance footage. It showed Taylor exiting our house one early morning, wearing Emily's bathrobe and holding her coffee mug like it belonged to him. I didn't look at Emily. I looked at Taylor. His jaw clenched. "This establishes ongoing, undisclosed presence around the children," Sarah said. "But there's more." She handed Dana a tablet already queued up to a video. Dana hesitated, played it. Taylor, grabbing Lucas's arm near the school gate, yelling, the child flinching, a staff member rushing over. Muffled audio, but the tone unmistakable. Emily gasped softly. "That footage," Sarah said calmly, "is time-stamped and corroborated by an incident report filed by the school counselor. Lucas's subsequent emotional distress is documented by his therapist, whose evaluation we've included." Taylor looked pale now. Dana started to speak. Sarah raised a hand. "One more." She pushed forward a printed transcript of Taylor's text messages, synced from a shared Google Drive account Emily had linked to years ago, likely forgotten. "If he doesn't sign off, we'll spin it. Make it look mutual. He won't want a public fight. Freeze him out. Emotionally first, then legally." You could hear a pin drop. My turn. I leaned forward. "You tried to erase me while I was halfway across the world, working to support this family. You told my kids I was gone too much. Meanwhile, you were rewriting the story to justify removing them from their home, their school, their father." Emily was crying now. Silently, no denial, just tears. Taylor sat stone still, staring at the documents like they might rewrite themselves if he glared hard enough. "I didn't just find out," I continued. I confirmed it. Every step. Every signature. Every night you thought I was clueless. Dana shifted uncomfortably. We can pause here. No, Sarah said. We're not pausing. We're filing. She tapped the final document on the table. Motion for emergency custody suspension of travel. Provisional full custody with restrictions on out-of-state movement pending court review. Dana tried to keep her composure. That's not necessary. It's already been approved. Silence again. Outside the window, a siren wailed in the distance. Too faint to matter, but loud enough to mark the moment. Then came the knock at the door. 2 plainclothes agents entered, briefcases in hand. One handed Taylor a folded notice. The other approached Emily. "Emily Allen?" the first agent asked. She nodded, startled. "We're here to collect statements regarding international custodial relocation under fraudulent pretenses. You are not under arrest, but we request your cooperation." Emily looked at me for the first time in days. Her mouth moved, but no words came. Taylor's lawyer stood up, whispering something in his ear. "I suggest you don't leave the state," the agent added. Sarah gathered our files. "My client will continue to act in the children's best interest. We're not here for revenge. We're here for truth. And that's been laid out clearly." As they left the room, I didn't watch them go. I looked at the table, the coffee mugs, the notepads, the battlefield. Later that afternoon, we received official confirmation from the judge. Temporary sole custody granted. All international travel frozen. The family trust remained locked pending a separate hearing. Emily was restricted to supervised visitation twice a week. Taylor was banned from all contact. The house, placed under legal review, pending asset division. She was advised to vacate within 30 days. That evening, I sat on the porch of a friend's rental apartment, the one I'd quietly moved into 2 blocks from the kids' school. Lucas sat beside me, doodling on a notepad. Mia was inside watching a movie. "You okay, Dad?" he asked, glancing up at me. "Yeah," I said. "I am now." He looked back down. "Can we get pizza tomorrow?"